Have you ever wondered how artists draw so realistically with just graphite pencils? I have too. It's not just talent, It's down to having the right tools. Hi, I'm Nada Ganane, and in this video, I'm going to show you my essential drawing tools and little demos on how I use them. I hope you pick up something you like. Let's have a look at what I've got already here set up for you. So you need pencils, obviously, and you can see that this is a rather extensive range of pencils, but as a beginner you don't need this many. But the reason why I've got them here is to show you that pencils come in different grades of hardness. Sorry, the camera's upside down. Okay, and so we've got a 9H. H means hard, right through to the medium H's, HB, so it's changing over. B means soft. I don't know where they get that from, but and then we move down into the softer B's. So the higher the number, the softer the B. And the higher the number, the harder the H. And you might think, well, why do we need so many different pencils? It's just a pencil. And yes, you would think that, wouldn't you? But there are a lot of different uses for the softies and for the hard ones. So I'll show you what I've got here, and you can see the difference. In this drawing, which I've started, you might be able to see the difference between the graphite colour. So right here, these very dark areas, they're looking at the range of around a 5 or a 6B. And you can see that there's an awful lot of graphite laid down. And it's quite chunky, and it's quite rough. So the other consideration you need to know is when you use these hard soft pencils, they do mark the paper underneath, so you have to be very careful. Now you might notice this section of this was a Banksia follicle that I was drawing. The colour of the graphite here is quite different. It's a lot lighter in grey. Now I did not use a soft pencil and just a lighter touch. I used a harder pencil, and you can see that the level of graphite laid down is a lot less, and so it gives you a lot more finer control. Let's see if I can get any closer. So you get that finer control, which is necessary when you're trying to create a whole lot of different textures. Okay, so another one to show you the difference is this drawing, which is an oval. And again, you can see that I've used the softer grades of HB, of the B pencils or graphites, to get the darker tones around here and even in here. But I've also used the harder tones in here to get that very, very light, almost imperceptible grey that when you pull away you can see that there is that tone, but it's very, very light. So that's the reason why you need all different grades. So if you're beginning, I would suggest that you start with a soft pencil. So I would say my favourites are a 2B, a HB, and 2B, HB, and probably a 4B, and you can go from there. Okay, so so that's number one tip. Also, you need to consider the type of paper that you're using. So soft paper, paper that has a rough texture will create tiny little highlights and lowlights and sort of texture. The texture will shine through under the graphite. You can see here, really close, that the paper texture is coming through. So I need to deal with that. This drawing could have been a lot more refined if this is just a drawing, a visual diary. So because it was just a study, the paper is fairly rough because it's quite thick, because I wanted to paint on it as well. So we've got this. It could have been a lot smoother. So things like this, the edge here, where we've got the highlight, the window reflection in the eyeball, that would have been a lot sharper and a lot brighter. Okay, so that's sort of considering papers. I like to draw on a Fabriano Italian paper or Arches French paper when I'm doing final works. Okay, what's next? Well, you're going to make marks. You're going to have to erase them because I don't care how good you are, you're going to have to make mistakes. So let's have a look at the wonderful array of erasers that are available to us these days. This first one is a kneadable eraser. So it feels like putty. It comes in little box like that I haven't opened yet. It's a bit like blue tack. Yeah. So the idea is that you squeeze it and you roll it, and I'll demonstrate on this one. So say I want to take an area out here, a large area, you can just roll it over and smudge it, and you can see, even scrub it, and it will come out. Eventually, when you use these enough, they get very dirty and you've just got to throw them away. But you can see I don't really use mine a lot. One of the good things about this type of eraser, is you can get a really tight, fine edge and go in to areas that you don't want, that you want to be, white compared to the surrounding area. But I don't find this one to be as effective. The other important point to make is that drawing in with graphite is as much a process of applying graphite to the surface as it is a subtractive process to remove it from the surface. So, because obviously graphite is black and white, and so we're looking at differences in black and white tones. So you need, or value. So what we need is to have a good range, a good scale of darks to lights. But and keeping in mind that the lightest light that you get on your page is the clean colour of the natural page without any marks on it. That's the whitest, highest value that you can get. So it's very much about laying graphite down and taking it off again, which is why I really insist on using so many different types of erasers. So this one comes in a little box like that to keep it clean, because they do suck up the dirt. You've got your other standard erasers like these guys. You know, they're just that nice big vinyl eraser that you would know from school days. And they're very handy to really get in there and take out some large areas. Now you can see, that brings me to, see how I'm going like this? And I'm moving the erasings off the page with the side of my hand. Now this is just normal, whether you're a righty or a lefty, you'll be doing the same thing. But what you've got to do is learn to, rather than use your hand, you use a brush. And the reason why you do that is to keep the surface clean. Your hand has lots of oils and you know, dirt and whatnot, and you don't want that to be you know, laying down the levels of oil and whatnot onto your drawing, which will discolour the paper after a while. And also, when you're using your hand to draw, you might be leaning on the page. So what you need is another piece of paper. Either this is baking paper from the kitchen, and you can lay it down and over the work that you've already done so that it doesn't smudge. Okay, so that's another. So we've got our erasers, we're back to that. So these are great for, you know, when you're just setting up a drawing, like up here where I'm still trying to solve the composition. You can easily take out large areas and they're very handy. But once you get into the working part of it, you need something a lot more precise. And what I have been using are these three erasers. So the first one, these are a Derwent brand and no affiliation. So the first one is a beautiful battery operated, and what it does, it just saves you having to go like this. So I'll just show you. Awesome. And we just hold it down and just move it around, and away we go. And you can see that it's taken out any marks that I've made. And this drawing was done a while ago too. So it's left the paper surface nice and clean, which is great. Also, the tip of it is, it can be sharpened, so you can get a really fine tip on that too, which is great for tiny little areas. Another one which is the same product, but it doesn't use batteries to vibrate it and get that action going of the eraser. This one is just, I use it because I can use a knife to cut it and sharpen it so that I get a really fine edge, and then I can get in and just get some highlights going like that. And again with my brush. make sure your brush is nice and fluffy and light and soft. This is just a watercolor brush, but you could use just something that's very, very soft. Okay, and then the last eraser I have to show you is this one. It is much finer than the others, so I use it for the tiniest detail, such as, I think it's in this one. Like this one, you can see that I've gone back and to get the highlights of the hairs. So in this case, I needed something very, very fine, and this little beauty is fantastic. What's it? I think it's a Staedtler. But yeah, just when you're shopping, keep your eye out for all types of erasers. The other thing that you need to do when you're working with erasers is to always clean them, and that's where a scrap piece of paper comes in handy. So you get all these filings that are stuck to the top, and you don't want to put dirt or other graphite onto your drawing. So you need to just rub them and make sure they're nice and clean. And yes, it does mean that you go through your erasers a bit quicker, but at least they're clean. Okay, so then here's another one we can look at. So again, a nice rough one. Where's this? Where's the other? Oh, hold on. I can't find it. Oh, here it is. Okay. So this brings me to these guys. So these are paper stumps, and you can see that we've got numbers on them to describe the various sizes, from very small number 1 to a number 9, which is obviously the biggest. So what we're looking at is the tip size. And the reason why we use these is because we're blending the graphite. Whoops, see how that dirty graphite. Oh dear. Alright, I'll try and blend it out. And so you're using that to get very, very smooth surfaces. Okay, so let's have a go on. Let's put that eyeball away. I'll have a go on this guy, and I'll use a clean edge now. A good point to make before I start is how you clean them, and you just get some sandpaper, and you can see that all that graphite's coming off, and I'm also able to sharpen the tip just like that. Now I've got a nice clean tip ready to blend. So let's see what happens when I blend this part of the Banksia. So you can see the small tip allows me to control where I'm blending, and it also smooths out the graphite and gives it a different quality than this rougher area here. So what can I do with that now? Well, I can use the eraser to tidy up the edges. So I can go around here and tidy again with my brush, and then I can use my very fine and I can put some details in that maybe weren't even there before. I'm just making these up, but just for demonstration purposes, just so that you can see how the drawing process is one of addition and abstraction. Well, sometimes it's often an abstraction, but I mean subtraction. Okay, let's have a look, and you can see we've got a little bit stuck there, so we'll just get a blending, just loosen that off. And now we've got a different surface to play with. I can use my pencils to tidy up those edges. Maybe even, this is just to try and get some detail. Obviously it's not correct for this part of the drawing, but for your viewing pleasure, I'm just showing you how to work around some areas. So it's addition and subtraction always. Let's see if we can get some lighter whites in there. And there, and now we have some kind of strange thing happening on the top of our follicle. But you can see that this principle of addition and subtraction is really useful, and it's basically how we work. And of course, finally, what we need is an eraser. Not an eraser, a sharpener. Goodness sakes! So I like these ones because you get like a couple of choices. And it's also very self-contained, so the filings stay in here, and if you're out and about, or sometimes I draw on a plane, or when I'm traveling, so to keep it all tidy, and just don't let it go into your pencil case, that's all. So there you have it. Oh, okay, last one. You might need some clips to hold things together. So if you're drawing on a sheet of paper on a board, then obviously you're going to need a lot of these to make sure that you keep everything still. And you also need to make sure that when you're in between drawing sessions, that you cover your work and keep it safe and away from areas that are going to smush it and possibly damage the surface. It just makes harder work for you. You've got to clean it all up again, and so just trying to keep things simple and keep all of your drawing tools all together. I have them in a basket, one of those baskets back here, so that it's all together and I know where everything is. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Maybe you've learned a little bit, and let me know in the comments what you think, or if you've got any more questions, and I'll be delighted to help you out in any way I possibly can. So in the meantime, stay well and stay healthy. All right, God bless.